Nice to meet you, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. I'm really excited because we're a bit less than 1 week until the delivery of the advisory opinion on climate by the International Court of Justice. I think that all of you who have joined are also as excited as me. And to make sure that this day is particularly special and that it's remembered as the big event that it is, we thought that these sessions today to try to organize our responses and create this event, historic opinion, historic responses, big tent event for the ICJ opinion delivery mobilization will be extremely important. So we have an exciting session. We're going to be able to touch upon quite a few things. And now, but before I go to that, I will be introducing myself. So my name is Samira Ben Ali. I'm the global campaign lead for the World Youth for Climate Justice, and I will be your moderator for today. And now I think we can go to the agenda. So for today, quite a few exciting things ahead. First, we're going to go and see what is legally at stake and Mansa Venkateswaran, who's going to be the one guiding us through this session. Then we'll be able to know what is happening exactly on civil society side of things on the day. And Yule Schnackenberg will be able to guide us through that. Then we'll have a messaging reminder by the amazing Dorka Boer, who is one of the main communication leads around this campaign. And finally, we'll be able to see what is next. Now that the year is out, what are we going to do all together? And that will be done by Eric Kalinen. So yes, thank you for joining, and I hope that you're as excited as I am. And also thank you to all of the amazing co-sponsors that we'll see at the end who have been able to co-sponsor this event for today. And now, without further ado, we'll be able to go to the first session. We'll be able to go toward the first session, which touch upon what is legally at stake. And Mansa, if you can take the lead on this. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Samira. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Mansa Venkateswaran. I'm with the legal team at Blue Ocean Law that is representing Vanuatu, the OECP as an MSG at the ICJ in the Climate Change Advisory Opinion. And this is such a loaded question. And if I had the time, I would spend hours on this. So I'm just going to get right into it. The advisory opinion has so much at stake because it presents an opportunity for the court to interpret how international law interacts with the conduct that causes climate change and the harm that has been suffered and will be suffered by states and peoples due to climate change. And it's really important to stress here that since no other court is positioned to interpret the extent of the laws the ICJ can, this advisory opinion is pivotal for an issue as cross-cutting as climate change. So given that we have such amazing speakers lined up today, I'm going to try to limit myself and really package this into 3 broad legal questions that the ICJ's advisory opinion can make or break, depending on its answer. So the first and incredibly important question is, what is the relevant conduct? So what is the scope of the conduct that international law can capture or examine in relation to the cause of climate change? And in this, we can really see it in 3 parts. You see it as the who, so whose conduct, the what conduct, and the when, so the temporal span of this conduct. And, just to clarify, while the request and the advisory opinion are generally geared towards states and their obligations, it is also worth examining how these obligations will apply to states' relationships with corporations under their jurisdiction and control. Something to keep in mind when the advisory opinion comes out, and all you wonderful people in this field will take this forward. The second question is, what is the applicable law? So what is the law that applies to this conduct, and how do these applicable laws interact? And lastly, at what point does a breach of each of these applicable laws occur, and what legal consequences does this breach attract? The reason I rephrase the question and this entire issue into these 3 questions is we all have seen the advisory opinion request. We all have heard maybe gone through the multitude of material that has been argued by states. But I think it's really important to see this as these three components, because they're such foundational topics that need to be covered in order for litigation to progress within this sphere. So circling back to the relevant conduct, if you look at the request that for this advisory opinion, it defines the conduct as acts and omissions of states that have caused significant harm to the climate system and other parts of the environment. And in the state written and oral submissions, we saw various clashes on the scope of this relevant conduct. Vanuatu, for example, within the umbrella term, defines three forms of relevant conduct, which is the provision of government subsidies to fossil fuels, the adoption of policies related to energy policy, and the omission to act to limit greenhouse gas emissions to a level below the threshold of significant harm. So the court here has an opportunity to define what relevant conduct falls under the purview of public international law, but also how far back can this relevant conduct be examined. And here we saw several points of clash in the proceedings in The Hague. For example, a simple question is what causes climate change? Is climate science sufficient to make this connection? And while a majority of states do recognize anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions to be the cause of climate change, there were states who attempted to question this link. Another question, when did states become aware that greenhouse gas emissions caused climate change? So there are several sub-questions and sub-questions to each of these issues. But in essence, the ICJ advisory opinion has tremendous potential to authoritatively settle these points of contention, and that will eventually back future claims that will build off this foundation. Quickly on the applicable law, a fair number of states submitted on lex specialis, basically trying to argue and convince the court that the climate treaty framework, which is majorly the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, constitute the major, if not sole applicable law to the relevant conduct.
Yes.
Such an understanding waters down the strengths of states' obligations, and relying solely on the bare text of these climate treaties, such as several states attempted to argue, such as the US and China, means that these obligations are significantly watered down and there are essentially no binding obligations. Instead, what we hope the court does is present a harmonious interpretation of the applicable legal regimes and find that general principles of law, human rights treaties, customary environmental law principles, and all of the other laws that were mentioned in the request apply alongside the climate treaty framework, and that these laws are what should inform the obligations, or rather the high levels of due diligence under the climate treaty framework obligations. Last and very quickly, on breach and legal consequences, it's a little hard to generalize this because breach and legal consequences are contingent on the law we're considering. But what the court hopefully does is explain at which point each of the applicable legal obligations are or have been breached, and what are the legal consequences that can be applied or sought out owing to this breach. And here we hope the court will refer to the law of state responsibility. So that summarizes very briefly as to what's legally at stake. Let me hand it over to our next speaker, which I believe is Yula.
Thank you, Mansa, for giving us those important reminder, not only on relevant conduct, applicable law, but also breach and legal consequences, and also for framing it in such a way for us to really be able to understand it quite well. And now, yes, indeed, we'll be going to our next speaker, which is Yula Schneckenberg, who is the Executive Director of the World of Climate Justice, to explain to us what will happen on the day.
Thank you so much, Sami, and also thank you to everyone for joining this. Really, when I look at the list of participants, feels like a really big tent session. It's my task to quickly run everyone through what is going to happen on the day. That means in The Hague, but also around the world. Again, thank you to everyone who's been beating the drums and turning up the noise towards this moment. We're really expecting that the 23rd will be the peak, but there's work that we can do leading up to it, and of course, work afterwards, which I think Erica will touch upon later. We have shared social media kits with you all and messaging guidance. That is something you can do leading up to the 23rd. On the 23rd, that's next week, Wednesday, we will be doing a mobilization in front of the court. So for everyone on this call who's in Europe, close to the Netherlands, it's quite a small country, or has friends, has national organizations or offices there, please let them know to join us for a moment of mobilization. We will be gathering from 1:30, so that's slightly before the actual delivery by the judges. This is so that we can have, there'll be some media statements by spokespeople from civil society and potentially states who will be attending. And then we will have a moment of solidarity together with the government of Vanuatu and Blue Ocean Law and those who really championed this case inside the court. Together with civil society outside, we'll have a moment of silence and then an incredible lineup of speakers at that mobilization moment, that demonstration. I'm really grateful. We'll even have some musical performances coming from the Pacific. So please do join or let your colleagues locally know. If you can share it on social media that it happens, we can really create strong images that will be sent out with all the media press releases that we are expecting. These press releases will be sent out afterwards. So the photos that we'll be taking will be the photos that will, for the rest of history, be connected with this case. And so we're really trying to put the focus already immediately on states and their obligation to implement what the court says. So the main banner will say, "Courts have spoken, governments must act now." That's on the mobilization. After the delivery, which we expect to be anything between 45 to 90 minutes, there will be a press conference hosted by Vanuatu just outside the court. Access is really limited, so I can't make any promises that there'll be any member of civil society even allowed to go into the courtroom, which is why we have a big screen outside with the mobilization for everyone to follow live if you're in The Hague, and you can watch the live stream online. After that press conference, there will be a press conference online because it is really hard to get to The Hague with only a 2-week notice. For that online press conference, journalists are welcome. So if within your networks, within your respective organizations, you have people who are journalists who are interested in covering the story, please do let them know, and in the Signal group chat that we have shared, or one of my colleagues can share in the chat, we'll be sharing the invitation to join that online press conference for some initial reactions. At the same time, in The Hague, there will be a rapid legal analysis team of some of our brilliant lawyer colleagues who will be following along and ready to pull together key bullets, around 5 on key themes that are extremely important and in line with the climate justice narrative that we've been working really hard to protect throughout all of this. And we're happy to share these 5 bullets. Again, that's not a substantive legal analysis. We probably won't have access to the document immediately. But that might help you and organizations that don't have legal capacity to be guided in how you start formulating your responses. And then the final piece I will say is that, of course, this has always been it's due to Pacific leadership and then global solidarity and a global uptake of this case that this is really a global people's case. And so we don't want the delivery momentum only to be in The Hague. So there'll be watch parties around the world, satellite watch parties that are extremely easy to host. All you need is internet access and a group of people, of course. And you can follow along and cheer and make some noise in respective other places. And of course, communicate about this on social media so that we have a network of these watch parties around the world. I think that's it for now, Samir, and we're happy to share some social media. A toolkit that will be coming out, probably within the 24 hours after the delivery for some images that people can share. That was a question that came up earlier today in the first session. But thank you so much again for all the work you've put in up to this day and for your support to make this day really matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shula. You got me excited. I'm happy to be there next week, and I'm happy that so many of you will be able to join. So looking forward to that. And now to be able to make sure to communicate well on this, I'm going to give the hand to Dorka Bauer, who is going to present us some messaging reminders.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if I can share my screen, but obviously have you made me co-host? Yeah. No, I have requested to.
You should have it now.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry, I just obviously closed the relevant window. But hello, everyone. In the meantime, I will introduce myself. As Samira said, I'm Dorka. I work for the Global Strategic Communications Council, and I've been supporting the campaign for the past 4 years. And my colleague Matt Hilton, who can't be here today, has been also supporting the Pacific Island students from the very beginning of the campaign. So I'm really, really excited to come to this stage of this process. And I wanted to share with you a couple of communications advices that we have put together. This is the work of a lot of people in this on this call. So thank you for everyone for contributing. And I'm going to share my screen. Yes. So, oops, I don't understand why it doesn't go to the slides that I asked it to go. Here we go. So we have a communications guideline that we have put together. And I hope that you have already seen that. If not, CL will be sharing it with you after the call. And in this communications guideline, we have a very detailed explanation of what is it that we are trying to achieve, what are the messages that we're trying to communicate before the hearing or the ruling, sorry. So this is phase 1, and I'm going to talk first about that part of communications. So we call this the drumbeat phase because we want to bang the drums and tell everyone that this is coming. It's really important, and it's going to change the way we do climate action at the moment, and it's going to change the way governments and companies can be held accountable for the damages that they've already caused. So we have prepared 3 key messages that we are using when we are building communications. First of all is that the ICJ could set a new guiding star for all countries, putting people and planet first and helping us hold climate polluters to account. Obviously, this is coming at a time when we are seeing an extreme amount of extreme weather events happening around the world that is putting millions of people's health at risk. And third, we want to emphasize how the ruling could compel major polluters to develop more ambitious climate plans while healing the harms that they have already caused with climate reparations. So these are the focus areas that we are trying to promote. We're deliberately keeping it a little bit vague since we don't know what's going to be in the advisory opinion, but I think this is already giving us a chance to show that this could be quite big. So if you're talking to journalists or if you're talking to colleagues or partners that you know could be interested in this, I advise to maybe rely on these messages, and it can help you bring this into the attention of everyone, because the whole climate community and all and beyond should be very excited about what's coming next Wednesday. The second phase that we also detail a lot more in the communications guidelines is called the Big Boom, which is obviously the 23rd of July. It is going to be massive. I don't have this graph right now, but we know that media cares about this moment, right? We know that they will be paying attention. Yesterday we had a media briefing. We had 60 journalists signed up to that. So there is a lot of media interest around this. The question is, who is going to get to shape the narrative? And obviously it has to be us, because we don't want the opposition to take over and talk about how an international court is trying to take away the sovereignty and do things to the country, which is absolutely untrue. And we know that this is coming. We already see in the US some articles which are sort of alluding to that and saying that, you know, this international court is trying to bring the climate chaos into the country, or I don't remember the headline that I saw this morning, but it is already there. So we have created 2 scenarios. Obviously, there are so many scenarios for how this AO could land, but we think there are 2 major ones. One is a celebratory scenarios, which focuses on in case like most things are ambitious, as ambitious as we would like them. And the second one, which is a little bit more cautious in case, you know, the court decides to look at international law only through the lens of climate treaties. But in both cases, we will underline how the court is saying that countries are not doing enough, because even if we're just talking about the Paris Agreement, we know that governments have not achieved what they promised in 2015. So we will need to underline that the court is saying that the course of action that we have right now is illegal, and we need to do more to get to comply with international law. So you will see in the messaging guideline a very long list of messages that you can use in both of these cases. And these will be also updated on the day itself to make it a little bit more sharper and to reflect a little bit better what the court says in the advisory opinion. We also have a 3rd phase of communication, which is planting the seed, I call it. That's because we're going to harvest all the things that the advisory opinion is giving us. So we'll take our time, analyze, and see where we can plant these seeds that the advisory opinion has given us, right? Like there will be a lot of different areas of climate action where we will be able to use this advisory opinion to argue for stronger action. So that's how we're going to communicate about it in the loss and damage spaces, how we're going to communicate about it if we're talking about NDCs or climate plans. So there are loads of those areas, and we will keep you updated on what the communication plan looks like for that phase of communications, because obviously we first need to see the AO itself. How can you support? You can take the messaging guidelines and use it. I think it's a pretty useful document. There is a lot of thought that went into it. So feel free to use that. Sonia from the Pacific Island students has prepared some amazing digital materials. So please share those. You can find them at the bottom of the document. And if your organization has amazing legal experts, which I think most of you are in this call, then please write some LinkedIn analysis about this. What we have seen in other cases, for example, the Peruvian farmers case against the RWE, the German energy giant, we saw that it really mattered what the most prominent thinkers in our circles wrote about the case. We know that the case was dismissed. However, it really helped that the leading experts of the field were highlighting it as a precedent-setting breakthrough. So we can shape the narrative through these little contributions, and your voice really matters. And we can also showcase to journalists look, all these experts are thinking this, like that's the reality of this advisory opinion. So I think that's it from me for now. If you have any questions, or if you want to talk to me about the advisory opinion, then please drop me an email or message me. I'm available and very happy to help, because I'm really eager to make this a historic moment, as it will be.
Thank you so much, Dorga. And as Dorca mentioned, we have our amazing colleague Link has put quite a few links in the chat. Some of them are in regards to the social media toolkit. So I would like to all invite you to, after this call, go and make posts on your socials about this and create excitement for people around you. And yeah, also after the delivery, please go ahead and make sure to make your own analysis of it. Now going on to like our next speaker, which is Erika Linan from the Center for International Environmental Law, who's going to tell us what is next.
Sorry, Samira, can I just respond to one point in the chat from Estefan? There is a global, there will be a press release, which some of the people on this call, so CL, WICJ, and the Pacific Island students will be putting out, and we can share this with you, and if you want to promote it, but you're also welcome to promote your own press releases, whatever works for you. So you can write me an email and then I can share it with you on the day. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Erika, for this. And please go ahead, Erika.
Well, thanks, Samira, and thanks to everyone who's spoken already. And it's so great to see so many people on this call looking at a very exciting time. It's hard to believe we're about a week away from this. It's been a long time coming, and that's very exciting. And you've heard a lot of things about what's going to happen on the day of and like what's coming. And so I'm going to talk a bit about what's next, because no one on this call, no one who's been working on this wants this advisory opinion to come out and this ruling to come out and for it to like sit on pieces of paper in the Peace Palace in The Hague or just sit on a website somewhere. So we really need to work to make sure that we take it forward and that we're able to sort of move beyond and to help use it to strengthen climate multilateralism, to strengthen all of our advocacy, and to move forward into a world that we actually see some real climate justice, and not a lot of what we've been seeing so far. So once the court delivers this, and it joins 2 other courts who've already delivered one, and there will be one upcoming in the future, there will be a couple of things that happen. So one, the UN General Assembly, which asked for the advisory opinion, will have a resolution that that states will work on, where they'll welcome the AO and they'll call for its implementation. Hopefully, we don't know exactly what it will say, but this is anticipated. And then there's a few things also that will happen sort of outside of just the buildings of the UN, and outside of what states can do. And so I'll touch on a few things related to litigation, related to ongoing international climate negotiations, and sort of related to campaigns. So as you've heard from Mansa and others on this call, and as you probably know, so this ruling will really clarify what states' legal obligations are related to the climate crisis and what happens when they breach them. And so this is a really important opportunity to then take the clarification of the law, and for lawyers and litigators and people working on cases domestically to use it. Because even though, it's international law, but this can be used in domestic cases. It can help bolster cases against states, probably against companies, and sort of bring in the arguments and sort of say, no, here are what the legal obligations are. Here's what you have to do under the law. And this is why it supports this case. So whether that's related to climate plans or fossil fuels or loss and damage, it can be used. And so a number of people will also be working on putting out information and really unpacking these opinions and helping to put out information for lawyers and litigators to then take it forward and use this ruling in their own work. One of the most immediate opportunities, I say immediate loosely, so this is coming in July, but in November, a number of us, lots of people, will once again join at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change annual conference of the parties at COP. And so this year we'll all go to Belém in Brazil, or some of us will go to Belém in Brazil. And we know, because we see where the climate crisis is, that those negotiations haven't really been working at the speed and delivering the climate justice we need. And so this could be a really pivotal point, and this ruling could play a really pivotal role in helping unlock the sort of stalemates that we've seen at the climate negotiations for years, where people aren't taking enough responsibility, aren't doing enough action, aren't providing the finance needed, and aren't really responding to the climate crisis, because if they were, we wouldn't be here. And so what we can do is really, so we're also going to be working on tools and things to help both progressive states, but also help, you know, civil society across the board to really say sort of like, this is what the court has said, here's what international law is. You have to comply with this, and you have to do that also in these negotiations. And so here's how you can translate this into moving forward and having more progressive outcomes at COPs, so that we actually see the climate action that we need on the ground. And so it can play a really pivotal role only 4 months later, I think, is where we're at. And so that's really important to think about. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is, I know there are lots of people on this call who are campaigners and who work on campaigns and who are, you know, fighting every day for sort of climate justice, is that this is also a time when we can take what the court has said and really build it into campaigns, whether they're related to phasing out fossil fuels or reparations and remedy for loss and damage, the rights of future generations who are going to experience the impacts of the climate crisis so much more than all of us right now. And so taking what the court says and really using that and bolstering campaigns and building that and making, you know, connections across those campaigns, but also using this to really sort of remind states and to hold them accountable for what they're not doing and what they should be doing. Because that's what we need going forward, and that's what we need for climate justice. So I've just said a lot of things. There's a lot more coming. There's also, you know, events immediately after that you'll hear about as well that Samira will recap. But just to say, there's so many opportunities for us to make sure that, like, the campaign and the momentum that went into getting us to this point and getting us to this advisory opinion really is then taken forward and isn't just like, oh, the advisory opinion happened and now we're done. Now's the time to really get excited, to think about ways you can use it, and to move us forward and to really put this into action. Thanks all. Back to you, Samira.
Thank you so much, Erica, for those important reminders. I think it helped everybody in the room visualize how they can use this advisory opinion in terms of policy, litigation, and campaigns. So now I would like to open the floor to any question that you may all have. If you have any question, please raise your hand and I'll give you the hand. So yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead, David. I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but we can't hear you. Your mic is on indeed, but we can't hear. Yeah, maybe you can write in the chat and we can. Please go ahead, Darlene.
Thanks, Samira, and hello, friends and people I haven't yet met, but all the incredible people here who are supporting and raising enthusiasm about this case. My name's Alan Ware. I was involved in a previous advisory opinion, which was the advisory opinion on nuclear weapons. So I was one of the lead campaigners for that. And so very supportive of this advisory opinion. I asked a question at this morning's session, which I'll ask again here, because I think it's just useful to have in the mix. The work that you're preparing for the day of delivery is just fantastic. And the messaging is incredible. I think you've done a really good job on that, and all the events and helping to ensure that people can have the narratives to take forward and be very engaged in this. The one question I did ask is that is there going to be I know you've got an online press conference, but is there also going to be an in-person press conference at the UN in New York? And the reason I mention this is because it was the UN General Assembly, which was the one that requested the opinion. And you've already talked about that there will be the core group of countries will be already meeting and talking about what will be the follow-up resolution, but that doesn't happen straight away. That takes a little time. What we found, it was really important for us to come out straight after the decision on the nuclear weapons, also with a press conference in New York for the UN media who are based in New York, to give the UN media the narratives that we wanted them to have. So we did that press conference like the very next day after the nuclear weapons case. So just checking if there is a plan for doing something with the UN media in New York, immediately after the decision from the court. Thanks so much. Oh, and we're also doing a preparation event on July 22nd, and I'll put the information in the chat because we welcome everybody to join. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Aline, for sharing your expertise. Who wants to take this on? Please go, Doctor.
Can I respond to Aline's question? So thank you for that question, and great question. We are focusing on 2 media briefings. So there will be a media briefing inside the court that is organized actually by the Vanuatu team. And Vishal will be also participating in that briefing. That will be a hybrid briefing. So both people who are in The Hague and not in The Hague will be able to access that press briefing. And then we are planning to put together a little bit less formal and a little bit more sort of rapid analysis style briefing that CL and others, I think WICJ and the Pacific Island students will be on it, to be honest, to answer a bit more the questions of the journalists that are trying to produce the in-depth analysis. So for now, we don't have capacity to focus also on New York. We prioritize these because anyone can join these. So I think there will be enough space for people to attend. And anyways, the bigger media houses or the broadcasters do have teams in The Hague. So they will be there with their cameras. I know, for example, AFP, Reuters were already in touch about how and when they can speak to the students. So yeah, they're on it. And I think these 2 should be enough to make sure that we cover everyone in the world.
Thank you for that answer, Dorga. David, are you able to speak now?
Just let me see if that works. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Super. Okay. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Groningen. I'm researching climate law. And I'm being a bit older, I've had some experience with UN General Assembly special sessions, one on HIV, one on NCDs. So my question is there interest in organizing or requesting the Secretary General to convene a UN General Assembly special session on climate change in 2026? So that would not be just a regular session where climate change is discussed as we've had up till now, but really like a one-day bigger event. And it has a lot of opportunities associated with it. And I'd be very happy to brief people on my experience, and maybe other people have had similar experience or could contribute. But just to see if this is an idea that has been discussed up till now. Thanks.
Thank you for your question, David. Who wants to take it on?
I'll let Joey do it since she raised her hand and she probably
No,
knows
please
better
go
than me.
ahead,
I was
Erica.
gonna say I don't know.
We have heard it mentioned as an idea in discussions, David, but I feel like people are waiting to see a little bit what the advisory opinion will look like. And so these ideas are kind of in motion. We would love very much to be in touch with you. If you could share your contacts, please do, and we will follow up. But yes, it has come up as an idea in the past.
That's super.
And thank you very much.
I'm drafting a pitch that we're hoping to publish very soon, and also I'll get in touch with you. I'll put my details in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Bridget?
Hello, can you hear me? Hi. Thanks so much for putting on this brilliant talk. I really appreciate the many resources that you guys have shared. I am not really here in my legal capacity, more as a friend of a bunch of very local, very local campaigners in Toronto, Canada. And in there's always limited capacity. There's also sometimes maybe a unique role for local campaigners with regard to international movements because of the very local connections they built with local politicians, and also because of their, sort of unique space in the ecosystem. So I'm wondering if there's anything that any particular advice you have for people, again, operating at the local level. And I mean, provincial and national politics within Canada, of course, are things that we work on, but also, again, we're not like connecting with Reuters or anything. We're much more of a small scale kind of organization.
Does anyone want to say something on that? Please go ahead, Yulia.
Thank you so much for that question, Bridget. And I don't claim to know much about Canada, of course. So you are the expert on the specific context. What we've been doing for the past years with World's Youth for Climate Justice in the different regions, and what the Pacific has done, the Pacific Island students fighting climate change is very successfully done across different Pacific countries, is making this big international tool, this ruling, Meta to make it known to local communities. So then I think there is that media outreach piece. So we've had campaigners in the past email local, reach out to local news outlets and say, this is a case they've been involved in. Is this newspaper planning to report? And then the newspaper did cover it with that specific angle of a young person from the city. It matters to them. They've been engaged in this thing that happens really far away, which is maybe a story they would have never thought or considered to publish. So in every local community, I think that is something that if you work with networks or you have friends who do that, that is very interesting, trying to see, and something that's very doable, trying to see if the local outlets are planning to report, or if you can bring that angle. What does this mean for, for the city maybe? And then the other piece is reminding our governments, as I had said, what we're looking at with the banner, now governments must act. What is Canada planning to do after this comes out? And we've heard from those drafting the submissions that the way that this will be taken serious again domestically in the capital is by continued pressure. So the next day, once we have the opinion, okay, what is the government's response? And this could be a question to Parliament. This could be trying to get a meeting with someone in the ministry. So that is definitely something we absolutely need people around the world to do to make sure that it matters. And that's exactly where the local and national campaigners are so important. And I think that translation, what that means, that is work we can do together, but that is also work that really locally and lawyers from the jurisdiction would have to do. But we're, of course, a big network to support each other.
Thank you, Yulia. Erica?
Yeah, I agree with everything Yulia just said, and just wanted to point out again, like I do think like sort of putting pressure and asking, the Canadian government, having the provinces ask the Canadian government, asking everyone sort of how they're going to implement it. But I think the other thing is that, the hope and things is that, this will be rooted in really important concepts and related to human rights and justice. And so laws can sometimes sound a bit daunting, but it's really fundamentally about, people's ability to live in a healthy place and live on a healthy planet. And so I think taking those things and treating the advisory opinion as just another tool in the toolbox and another way to sort of promote what the local campaigns are already doing and translating it into local circumstances, but really like sort of taking it and just using it as sort of just another like, we have like this ruling or this thing or this science. And now we also have the world's highest court saying this. And so using that in campaigns, I think is also one way to bring it. But I definitely think like having it across, even at the localist of levels is a really important way to make sure that this, what is said is actually taken forward, and that we actually sort of build on and have better action.
Thank you, Erika. Sumaira, please go ahead.
Thank you, Samira, and thank you, Eula and Erica. This was, I think, just the hook that I needed to ask you all a question, and that is, at Child's Rights for International Network, we're basically thinking of the implementation of the advisory opinion, and of course the the legal research, analysis, etc., will be done. But for this to actually be useful on a national level by young people, by children, it's really important to make it child friendly as well as accessible for different kinds of people and from young people to children. So we were thinking that it could be good to develop either a toolkit or something similar to like make it very accessible, just like Erica said, that would be a way to also include in their advocacy. So not necessarily creating something new, which would need a lot more resources and power and maybe time, but really incorporating it into existing efforts as well as existing campaigns. So I was just wondering, so the question actually is are there any efforts with regards to this kind of work? And just happy to learn more, and if not, very happy to work on this together with other organizations if they're interested in it. All right, that was it. Thank you very much, Samira.
Maybe I can answer this one if that's okay. So at least on the ICJ side, we're trying to make a list of what will be relevant in terms of not really translating, but somehow it is translating the language of the advisory opinion into different fields. And we have not written down child's rights perspective, but I think that could be something relevant to do, and we'll be really happy to do that together if you want, Sumera. But yes, we are thinking about how to make sure that everybody has access to this and it's understandable as much as possible for everyone. Thank you. I had seen one hand up really quickly and then it's gone. Yes, please go ahead, Dickinson.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Dixon Mugume, and I'm the legal lead at Habitat Defenders Africa. And my question is basically hinged to the aftermath of everything after the opinion is given. Are we prepared to respond if the opinion is weaker than expected? Like, do we have any mechanism in place to push for accountability just in case we get an unsatisfactory opinion? What do we have in place in regards to that? Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to take this on?
I can try. I mean, one, I do think that we have in place on the immediate aftermath, I think we do have in place, as Dorka presented, some at least messaging guidance for sort of how to message about it and to make sure it's not damaging, I think. And then I think the other thing is that I mean, I think it will be important to see, one, if there are things in there that can be taken forward. Two, there are also already the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea and the Inter-American Courts of Human Rights have issued really pretty progressive advisory opinions, sort of clarifying what the law is. And it's within those two, it's within the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and within the American system. But what they're interpreting, and a lot of the law they were using, is customary international law or is the same across the board. And so I think using those resources and sort of talking about the need to harmonize law and implement it is really important. It will also, obviously, as you probably know, the African Court has also been asked for an advisory opinion. And so that process will be starting soon-ish, I think, for people states and organizations to submit to the court, and hopefully, if they issue an advisory opinion, it would be similarly progressive as, say, the Inter-American Courts. And so I think that part of it is not letting, if this doesn't go well or isn't as good as we want, is not letting it sort of hinder things, but to sort of take forward the momentum we're already seeing. I think we've seen it in domestic courts, we've seen it in regional courts on momentum towards climate justice and some good rulings. And so to really use those things, including the other advisory opinions.
Thank you, Erica. I think that we may have time for really one quick question, and then that'll be it, and I'll go ahead with the reminders. Does anyone want to say anything? Okay, as I'm not seeing any hand raised, please feel free to add your question in the chat. Otherwise, I will just go ahead and give you some of the recap of the upcoming events. So before the delivery, as was mentioned by several people in this call, please make sure to use the communication that we share in the chat and try to share as much as possible within your networks about this advisory opinion and why it's important for them to know about it. Also try to organize your own watch parties, which is basically a moment during the delivery where you are, wherever you are in the world, where you organize an event and you all watch it together. So it can create this moment of sort of like rally globally. On the day before, there will be a screening of the documentary on the campaign that is called Yumi. Unfortunately, now it's full, so you cannot register anymore, but just to let you know that this will be happening. On the day off, we're going to be having a mobilization, which should be started at 1:30 p.m. outside the courts. So if you're going to The Hague, please come with us. And if you have like anything that you want to do, please maybe you can come with a banner of your own. We'll be watching the live stream of the delivery all together in front of the courts, which will be really nice. And there will be quite a few lovely movements and during that mobilization of people speaking and they're sharing about experience and some festivities around that. After the delivery will happen, and then after the delivery, we'll be having a press conference by Vanuatu inside the courts. And maybe it will be hybrid, but we're not sure right now. There will also be a media briefing for journalists post-delivery, and we'll be able to share also during the day, at the end of the day, some of the 5 rapid legal analysis in the Signal group chat. So if you have not joined the group chat yet, please make sure to join it. Then on the day after that, can we go to the next slide? On the day after that, we'll be having the first rapid response event. So our lawyer will be following attentively the delivery as many of us in this room, but they will be following more attentively, I must say, maybe. And they will be able then after that to provide us with a rapid analysis event that will be online and you'll be able to join us. And normally someone should share the link to sign up to this event in the chat. And after that, we'll be having more rapid response events that should be up and coming. So make sure to join the Signal group again so that we can let you know more about that. Now, if we can go ahead to the next slide. Just as a quick reminder again, please make sure to use your social media for this particular moment, which can be a really big turning point depending on how we react. Host a watch party if you're not able to join The Hague. And if you're able to join The Hague or you know people who are in The Hague, you can come to The Hague, tell them to join the mobilization at 1:30 p.m. on the day. Next slide, please. Now, just for you to have a quick, again, checklist, there is like not enough reminders ever. You can go ahead and check out the website of the Pacific Island Student Fighting Climate Change, of the World Youth for Climate Justice, and also on the Center of International Environmental Law to know all about these events. If you're not able to write them down, we will have them posted online, so make sure to go and check that out. Watch party, messaging guidance, which is in the chat, and other forms of communications also are in the chat. And I think that now it's come time for us to be able to close the session unless someone has a final point that they want raised. And in closing, I would like to thank so much all of the co-sponsors who were able to really quickly join us and join forces for this amazing event. At least I found it to be amazing. And I'm looking forward to meeting some of you on the ground next week if you're able to join. Otherwise, we'll meet again online, I'm sure, and throughout the different campaigns that we'll be able to lead together. Thank you so much.